Thank you, Dr. Law and Budget Committee and colleagues. My name is David Clement. I'm Executive Director of the Institute for Strategic Policy Solutions, and it's my privilege to be here today to ask request funding for two new programs for the Institute in the new fiscal year. The first is a personnel request for a 20-hour OPS assistant at $11,000 to assist with marketing, social media, website management, and general administration. The original plan for the Institute 4 years ago called for such a position, but it wasn't approved, and probably for good reason, because we didn't have a track record. Now we do after 4 years. As you may recall, if you were at the last Board of Trustee meeting, I told about the 17 events that we presented during the fall semester alone, and the fact that we had reached more than 1,000 students in our 4 years of existence. And we were happy with those results, but we feel that we were not able to maximize their reach and effectiveness because we just don't have enough staff resources to cover all the bases, especially those involving students. So this position would be primarily geared to reaching out to students so that we can touch more of them and make more of them aware of our programs. We think this might be an ideal position for a student employee, maybe one from the Public Policy and Administration baccalaureate program. We see this employee working as a sort of a liaison with students, connecting with student government, with the Fellows program that we are establishing at the Institute, and civics clubs and so forth. Since our launch in 2011, you know, social media has taken a very much larger role today than it did 4 years ago. And we are behind the curve in that area. We need to develop new ways to leverage social media so that we can reach more students who are not aware of us, and also the younger demographic in the community whom we would like to also reach with especially our Village Square programs. And this person would also is needed to update our website. There is a great deal of activity in website development as we roll out new programs that have to be posted, roll in input from the existing from the programs we've just held, and to analyze the data from those programs. This employee also could be helpful in staging our events because we almost always have to rely on staff overtime, borrowing from other staffs, so this person could take away some of that overtime. And the second project that we're requesting funding for is called the Arctic Climate Change Project. This is a partnership with something called the Institute on Science for Global Policy in Washington, D.C. That's a think tank that's devoted to study of major issues involving climate change, food safety, infectious diseases, and the like. Well, our focus would be on climate change, especially Pinellas County being at such a low sea level of seas. We have been invited to take the lead role in planning a 2-day conference, one of 7 or 8 that will be held around the country this year that seeks consensus on from the pros and the cons on areas that can be agreed on for us on climate change. And from that project, a limited number of people from every city will be invited to board a vessel from the National Geographic Foundation that will go to the Arctic Circle in 2016 and see climate change up close. If we are the leader of this project here, I see St. Petersburg College having at least a handful of people on board that, hopefully including at least one student and a faculty member. And if we can have that project approved, we will provide the in-kind services of our facilities, but I'm also asking for $5,000 to support some of the costs associated with it. We'll also be raising money from the community to pay for additional costs. That's the end of my presentation. I'm open for questions. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. So I guess this is better than being between you and lunch. It's probably better to be like during lunch, but hopefully this is good, energetic conversation while you're enjoying your lunch. I'm your entertainment during your lunch period. I want to start by, and you can just go to the first slide's fine. That original cover slide's fine. I'm just going to stay with that cover slide. I wanted to talk a little bit about moving the needle and having a conversation about the success of the conference that we had. Just some quick numbers I want to go through. We had 150 attendees at the Moving the Needle conference that we had last November. We actually had all of 150 signed up 2 weeks before our early bird registration ended. And a lot of that, and we just ran out of space. We had to stop at that point. But it was a very successful conference. We had 26 different colleges and universities that were in attendance. 18 of the 28 state colleges were here. We had 8 presidents and 37 vice presidents. And just for those that aren't aware, we were building a conference to help folks learn about the great data culture we have here at St. Petersburg College and encourage them to build similar kinds of interactive student-focused cultures at their own institutions. So we invited executive teams to actually come visit us, and we had a 2-day conference to have those discussions. Well, we obviously didn't have enough space, but it was a very successful conference. And we'd like to do it again, but realizing as we want to do it again in the end of October timeframe of this year, we realized it needs to be bigger. There's a lot of demand. So what we'd like to do is have 250 people at this next conference that we're going to have at the end of October. And what I'd like to bring forward in terms of our request is for $10,000. Essentially what we're looking for is seed money to get started. So this is money we'll repay back to the college once the conference is over. Our current estimates right now, due to some of the great negotiation skills of Sabrina Crawford, who saved us about $10,000 from the hotel cost. They're actually going to be one of our sponsors. We're anticipating having anywhere between $9,000 and $15,000 that we'll have to the plus by the time the conference is actually ended. So the $10,000 I'm requesting will actually pay back to the college. It's just when we did this last year, we had to pull it from our own accounts, and it got a little bit different in terms of accounting. So it'd be easier to have that seed money to get started. So that's my request regarding moving the needle. Thank you for consideration of that request. The next request I want to bring forward is a request from leadership. I'm not sure how many folks are familiar with some of the things that go in the area with performance funding that we have now as the state moves forward. There's going to be about $30 million that's going to be up in the air for the state colleges as we enter the next fiscal year, if everything goes through that's being discussed. And that'll be new funding given to the upper echelon of state colleges based on these new performing funded metrics. The other interesting thing they're going to do is they're going to put $30 million at risk. So depending where you are in the ranking scale to these 28 community colleges, some of those near the bottom will actually lose funding, and some of that money will go to those that are on the top of the scale. So I'm working with Jamel and the state, and we're having some good conversations about what those metrics might look at. But it seems to be one of the metrics that they've stuck with is not really representative of our student population. They want to focus on full-time, first-time in college students. And to give you an idea what that represents in our college, in our fall, we have about 11% of our students that are first time to college as they enter. Only about half of those students are actually full-time entering in a typical fall semester. So we're talking about 5.5% of our population. IPEDS metric is the federal definition. That's one of the reasons that the state has chosen to use that, because it's easily accessible and used. But it impacts a lot of things. It impacts, you've heard about our completion rates are based on that's shared federally. Our information that's shared in the state uses that metric. Our Aspen is one of the institutes we work with a lot in terms of professional development, and they award colleges, esteemed colleges awards every year. That's also based on this concept of full-time, first time in college. So what we'd like to do is propose putting some resource specifically on those students to help us move up the line in terms of our rankings with that information. So the proposal is for two level 2 A&P level 2 positions that are student success specialists, 2 positions that sole responsibility will be to work with full-time, first-time in college students throughout their tenure here at the college, for a total of just under $100,000, $92,453. So I hope you consider my request. Any questions on that one? Okay. Now I'm going to do my best Jackie Scrid imitation. She's not able to attend us today, but I'm actually bringing forth this request for her. Let me start by bringing up a couple slides, and I'll celebrate here a little bit. This is the money that has been brought in due to the reformation of the grants department. So I want you to notice here that in 2010-11, we brought in about $3.2 million. Go forward a couple of years, it was up to almost $24 million, and in this last year, there's actually just over $44 million that has come to the college through the grants initiative. If we go to the next slide. As you look through here, you'll see it started with 0, and now there's about 33 grants that are being worked on this term right now, and out of those, about 18 have been done in the last, 18 have been done about the last 18 months. So it's clearly you see this accelerated growth in terms of the grants, and I'm sure, one of the things I was going to bring is actually bring some monopoly money to kind of prove the point and start handing it out to the groups to say, because everybody knows that we've been able to take advantage of this money that's come in through the work. We know in terms of the grants department, they've done a good job of aligning these grants to what we're currently doing at the college and improving student success. But with all this, everybody says, it's a problem and it may be a good problem to have, but the reality is it requires resources in order to do this. So I've had some conversations with Jackie, and what we'd like to propose is restructuring one of the grant positions in her department and changing that to an associate director position. And the hope is that with some more administrative responsibility for that individual, it's about a difference of about $12,000, $13,000 that we're requesting, is we can put some more help in the discussion with other departments. Grants move very fast, as many of you know. We get a grant that comes up, we start to build some partnerships, and we have to move very quickly to get it rolled out. Well, sometimes what's lost in that conversation is making sure you've met with each of the departments that are involved in part of that granting process. What we're hoping is by restructuring a little bit and reclassifying this role, this will really assist in the management of the department and better have communications with marketing, with human resources, with grant accounting, and be able to really make sure that we've got everything in place before we make the commitment and move forward to the grants and really help the transition. Because to be honest with you, you see the dotted lines moving up there. I anticipate the potential is just for this to continue and grow and grow and grow. Any questions on that request? Okay, thank you very much. Continue to enjoy your lunch.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Sabrina Crawford. I'm the Executive Director of Institutional Research and Effectiveness, and I'm here to share with you that our next SACS reaffirmation report is due in exactly 2 years to this week to date. And that seems like it's been very fast, but we're very fortunate because we've been spending the last year or so combing through all of our, I have a slide, thank you, combing through all of the 84 existing standards to see where we stand. Now, this slide is obviously not us, and I'm here to stand before you and say I have utter confidence that the sky is definitely not falling. We are in an excellent position to be able to not only turn in a report to our SACS accreditors that will achieve compliance, but it will also tell the real story of SPC. However, SACS, like most regional compliance or any regional compliance area, has added new standards that we'll need to address for the first time. And one of those has to do with assessment. Previously, all of our academic programs needed to be assessed, and we have an assessment department here at SPC that looks at every single academic program, both on an annual basis and on a 3-year review. Well, this new addition is for all administrative areas, or all non-academic areas. In working with the 3 senior vice presidents, we've identified about 40-plus areas that we would like to claim as our administrative areas that really speak to the different initiatives and areas that we feel describe who we are as an institution. And in order to be able to meet the needs of what we'll need to be reporting, our annual assessment of these areas, I'm here today to ask for a level 4 A&P position, which would be an associate director of assessment. This person would be housed within the assessment department, so we will be utilizing the same methodologies that we've already had great success with. And really, this person's job will be to meet with these 40-plus areas, make sure that their reports are organized, that they have mission statements, that they have all of the areas that are required by SACS, but more importantly, that tell the story of what we're doing here. And I want to just keep stressing that, because for me, as a storyteller, because that's what, in my mind, SACS really is, I get to tell the story of the college, that we're really following up with our departments and just really making sure that we have the documentation that is able to tell that story. One final word about this position: it will also serve as the administrative support for our QEC, which is our Quality Enhancement Committee, who's in charge of developing our QEP, which is our Quality Enhancement Project, which is part of this next reaffirmation report. And that is my request. It's about, I think it's about just under $54,000 is the starting salary of that position. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Andrea's not here yet, okay, so perhaps somebody can stroll down to see if she's in her office, or 911 for her. You want to go? You got more?
I got more.
You got more? You can fill the hour?
I think I don't need 20 seconds. I need
Joe's going to come back. He's got 20 more slides, okay? 20 more slides.
Yeah, at 40 seconds a piece.
20 slides at 20 minutes apiece.
Good afternoon. I'm Teresa Furnace with Business Services. I'm so glad that I got to follow Jackie's slide, because the first position that I'm asking for is a new grant accountant position, because the grants are growing by leaps and bounds, as you saw. So it's fortunate that I followed that. But we've got the new grants are developing, and with them comes fiscal reporting, fiscal accounting, fiscal compliance, and all sorts of tracking and reporting to the agencies. And the agencies have determined that they want more stringent requirements levied now on how their money is being spent and accounted for and complied with, such as conflicts of interest and all sorts of new demands. So we're asking for this position to support these grants, which are primarily bringing us academic workforce programs, expanded student services, which also leads to potential enrollment growth. And the request for that is $47,226. The next position then we're requesting, and Desiree is going to join me, because this is a full-time PeopleSoft functional specialist to support both the HR area as well as finance. With our systems, we have many, many administrative requirements within the system to keep the configuration and maintenance of wonderful things like reporting trees and chart fields and all these things, and security, roles access, as you all know, you've got to request when new people come on board or make changes. So we're requesting someone to come in and help improve the efficiencies in our system, also work with our team members in HR and finance to relieve us of these duties so that we can better serve our customers. They work as a liaison with the development team in AIS to support upgrades, the tremendous bundles and updates that we get frequently, as well as develop new process and new programs that come about with these bundles. And the cost of that is a level 7 position, career staff exempt, would be $38,856. And then the last position we're asking for is for purchasing, a team member for OPS only for 29 hours a week. And this is to improve our tracking, our compliance, our training, all about the P card. Our P card has averaged growing 19% a year since we implemented it. Last year, we spent over $1 million using the P card across the college. So it's, it's growing. Purchase orders are not falling off as much. They've decreased about 6%. So, and a lot of that is attributable that we don't have the construction that we used to have a lot. So people are using both mechanisms for purchasing. And we really could stand the help with having extra set of eyes for compliance, monitoring, making sure that we're collecting all the data, because this is an area that's heavily audited every year. They're very interested, our state auditors are very interested in how we're making sure that people do what they're supposed to do when they're using their P card. And the cost for that one is $21,562. Any questions? Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity to present the Collaborative Labs strategic budget presentation. The Collaborative Labs just experienced last week our 10-year anniversary. It was a great party, and we are in an even more exciting position as we embark on our next 10 years. And we're looking, because we basically have this proven track record within our institution, regionally, statewide, and so as you all know, when you have big problems to solve, when you have big initiatives to launch, who are you going to call? The Collaborative Labs, right? Always. And so the Collaborative Labs were expected to perform as a business. We need to cover our costs through revenue produced. And so, as a good business practice, a couple of years ago, we presented a 3-year business plan. And this business plan will enable us to reinvest in our business and to grow in profitability versus having to start from ground zero at the beginning of each fiscal year. And the business plan outlined 3 critical initiatives. Initiative 1, investment 1 really, was to invest in a full-blown marketing campaign. For the first time in our history, this past year we invested in a full-blown marketing campaign, new logo, new website, new video, new collateral, and we have already started seeing return on investment. The most critical part of that was to invest in a targeted marketing campaign for the private sector. Key point is that the labs are covering that investment with revenue. So that was investment number 1 of the three investments. Investment number 2, a total technology and facilities refresh. And in fact, it just happened last week. It started last week. Reason I'm late, I had to take off my hard hat to come over here and meet with you all. It's exciting. So in April, we are going to fling the doors open. We're going to have another party and invite you to come to see our complete tech and facilities refresh. Key point, the Collaborative Labs are covering this investment through revenue. We're on a 5-year payback plan. The final investment, and the most critical, is investment in staff. As you all know, people are our greatest asset. And so we need to invest in staff to realize our greatest opportunities, our greatest success. We are asking actually to reinstate the original Collaborative Labs staffing model for success, which was 5 team members. And in fact, when we had that staffing model intact in 2008, we realized our greatest profitability. And so we're asking to reinvest in the original staffing model. And our 2 strategic budget requests for staffing, the first is to move our part-time manager to full-time. and that would be at an annual salary of $75,000. The second request is to move our OPS position to a part-time budget specialist, and that will be at an annual salary of $23,000. Key point is we are already paying for this work to be done through contract and temporary labor at a much higher price, a much higher cost. So for economies of scale, we're looking to, in addition to have significant cost savings, we're looking to increase through these positions, increase productivity, increased efficiency, increased continuity, and increased flexibility. Key point, we will cover these positions through Collaborative Labs revenue. So this final critical investment in staff will ensure that the Collaborative Labs has continued growth and profitability as we launch into the next decade. And I thank you for the opportunity. Are there any questions?
Did you say what the timing is on the refresh?
The refresh, we will be complete in March. All things working
Really?
well. Yes,
Wow.
yes. So we're on task. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Jim Wechter with your Facilities Department. And as you know, this college has made an enormous commitment to the Midtown community. We have a 50,000 square foot building under construction, and this request centers around the resources that we in facilities will need to support not only that facility, but the adjacent facilities that are currently under consideration for purchase. My request is specifically for resources in the areas of landscaping, custodial, maintenance, mail receiving, support, and security personnel to not only sustain but to maintain that new facility and all those adjacent facilities, not only for the initial period here when we open the doors on June 15th, but for all dates moving forward. The request is modest and appropriate, I feel. It completely aligns with the staffing models that we've established elsewhere in the college. We are all in at Midtown. We're not doing this haphazardly. We will treat this facility as we do all of our campuses, and therefore my request is in the range of $260,000 without the benefits. And that's all I have. Are there any questions?
Doug, we have not spent any time today talking about source of funds for people's requests, but this is typically handled as a front end from the legislature, right? Cost of operating new facilities. So we don't know the exact number, but all or most of that will get paid.
You're exactly
upfront.
right,
Okay.
Doctor. You're exactly right. That would be the anticipated source. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Dan Bartow. I'm the Director of College-Wide Security, Risk Management, and Safety. I'd like to thank Dr. Law and Dr. Duncan for the opportunity for this presentation. My presentation today is for upgrades or additions amounting to 3 officers for the amount of $56,408. The first position is at Downtown Center, and it would be an upgrade of an existing security officer position into a senior officer position, providing security leadership at the site, which is currently lacking. The second is an upgrade for a current budgeted part-time position, and it would be upgraded into a full-time security officer position. And the third would be a security officer position up here for EPI dispatch, would allow us to provide 7-day coverage for security dispatch. Over the last few years, security dispatch has become the nexus for emergency communications. Currently, it's covered with overtime and officers loaned from other sites. We believe that this proposal is a modest submission and worthy of consideration. Are there any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I'm Mike Meggs, Director of Student Accounting and Business Systems. As of 3 months ago, the District Office Business Office took over responsibility for the processing of student requests for drops with refund. Previously, this was done at the campus site's associate provost offices. The process includes a thorough review of the appeal to ensure that it meets specific criteria, making sure it contains appropriate supporting documentation, and working with various departments to complete the process. In the last 8 weeks, we have received over 150 appeals, which has resulted in approximately an additional 20 hours of working per week. As part of transitioning this to the business office, we have streamlined the process by narrowing the criteria, simplified both the online and hard copy forms, and improved the overall college experience. This request is for a 20-hour OPS Career Level 2 position at the district office to assist with call volume in the collections department as well as assist with general office work. This will allow us to reshuffle workloads so the proper time and effort can go towards processing these appeals. The total cost of this request is a little over $11,000. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Hello, I'm Patti Jones from Human Resources. Thank you for staying and listening as we get near the end here. And I want you to think about for a moment a time as we talk about our talent development systems when you used a phone just for talking to people, a camera that had film in it, you watched TV when the network said you had to watch the shows, right? And then we got these. We got smart, we got integrated. And that's the approach we need to take to talent development. Because right now, what do we have all over the college? We have career service evaluations on Excel spreadsheets. We have really awesome position-specific learning plans for positions on spreadsheets. We have notes you keep, notes your supervisors keep. And we have, admittedly, a current learning management system that is limited and is siloed. So I'm suggesting that we move out of this and have a smartphone approach to our talent management. And for the last several months, we've had a committee of college-wide people studying various options and are unanimously recommending that we move to Cornerstone On Demand. Cornerstone On Demand is a talent development system that would provide the framework for intuitive integration of our career service evaluation with career service growth plans, dashboards for employees and for supervisors, and would vastly help us improve the first-year experience and the onboarding of employees. And down the road, a new applicant tracking system, which would free up Susan Clerick's team from supporting the current one that we have. The total amount requested for the first year is $315,000. Now, that includes the one-time investment of $140,000, and the recurring cost would then be $175,000 over a 5-year period. My second request is regarding the career service evaluation revitalization project that we have going on right now. As you know, we're moving from a current approach where you have an annual event that is the evaluation, where the supervisor and the employee meet, to a more dynamic, ongoing, year-round engagement between the supervisor and the employee. So this is a request, it's a one-time request as we roll this out to continue with our consultant to help with that and related training. My next request is regarding the SPC Delta Academy. This is something that we are piloting right now, and we're very excited about this. It's going very well. And I would like to make it part of our regularly established leadership programming that we have at St. Petersburg College. So I am suggesting that we would offer 3 Delta Academies a year at a cost of $30,000. At that pace, we would be able to have all of our supervisors go through this in a little over 3 years. The next request talks about increased employee support and development. And I hope as you hear me make these requests, that you hear the commitment we have to the employee experience. So whatever has been going on the student side with the student experience, we think is very important to mirror and effectuate and make sure it happens on the employee side. So we believe we've been doing a lot of that in professional development. We've had an exponential increase in our offerings to our family, and we're still growing. So I have three related requests under this heading. The first is to reclassify a current position that works with what is now a learning management system that will become the talent development system from a grade 7 to an A&P grade 3 instructional technology analyst. With increased dependence on blended and online delivery on the employee side, the scope and complexity of this role has increased, and indeed the duties that the person is now doing already mirror what is being requested in the higher level. My second request is to convert a current 29-hour OPS position we have in professional development. This is the role that takes care of the logistics, all the scheduling, all the room reservations, all the classrooms planning, the stuff with our both online and face-to-face, all the logistics, all college day, spring training day, the many learning events we have. There definitely is enough demand for this role to be full-time to do that. And in addition, I think if we're able to convert this to a full-time position, Dr. Williams has asked that we take on one other responsibility, and that is to coordinate logistics regarding meeting the needs of some of our employees who need accommodation, specifically sign language interpreters. Right now, that is being coordinated kind of as we can between disability resources and human resources, with the onus more on disability resources. But we believe it's important to try to separate those functions out, and the feedback Dr. Williams shared with me was that some of those employees would feel more comfortable if it was not organized by the office that really is set up to serve students. Related to that, we have right now in the budget $12,000 that was a one-time appropriation to help support those needs, mainly for sign language interpreters. They're used for our employees when they're in meetings, in workshops, and even in classroom delivery. We believe that this need is not going to go away, so we're asking it become a recurring part of the budget. Although we had $12,000 this year, I understand that was to support the needs that we are already aware of for fall and spring, which is why I'm requesting $15,000 for that piece. Finally, I'm asking for a reinstatement of the Employee Relations Coordinator position. For any organization, this is an important and impactful role in helping to resolve conflicts and problems before they escalate. I think many people in this room have worked with us on situations like that. They provide guidance for challenging situations, and for all the things I have bulleted here on the list, we, I think, are very familiar with what that role can do. But I think in addition to that, right now, as we enter into this ongoing implementation of change that we're expecting with our supervisors and our employees, the dynamics are going to change. There's going to be a lot of questions. There's going to be a lot of need for coaching and guidance with the implementation. And I think this role can also help with that as we move forward with those courageous conversations that are going to start happening more and more often. So for all the traditional reasons and what I just cited as well, I'm asking for the employee relations position, which is about $43,000. Thank you.
Good afternoon. You're probably wondering why your slide says Mark Strickland. Obviously, I'm not Mark Strickland. But Mark asked me to stand in for him today because he was unable to be here. I am actually here representing the athletics department, and their request is for a full-time budgeted athletics or athletic trainer. Athletic trainers are very essential to any athletics program. And Mark and I and the coaches have been working for the last several years to try and make this a possibility. Currently, Mark hires the athletic trainer for some of the home games, but we really could use a full-time position for several reasons. One of them being that the NJCAA, which is the equivalent of the NCAA, While they don't require it for every game, they do highly recommend it. They do, however, require it for the post-season contests, and for good reason, because obviously, as you get into those post-competitions, the adrenaline runs a little higher during those. The position that he is actually asking for is a pay grade 6 with benefits. The cost is $46,115. We also have found that by using an athletic trainer, that the cost of the insurance premiums and the claims tend to go down. And we did a benchmark a few years ago, and just to see what kind of response we got from some of the other schools. And at that time, there weren't a lot of schools who were utilizing them, but there were a few. Since that time, in the last 3 years, as I reviewed the premiums and the claims, while the premiums have stayed pretty steady, the claims have gone down for the last 3 years running, and we're hoping to be able to continue that trend. So therefore, Mark is asking for this position, and I hope you'll consider it. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Jamel Connor. St. Petersburg College values its employees. It's the employees on a daily basis that help us to attain our strategic goals, as well as ultimately and most importantly, helping us to help our students succeed. So to this end, as we work through our budget process, we wanted to include the details relating to what a compensation increase would cost in our operating budget. So you can see the details up there. It amounts to, for every 1%, about $1.2 million. Thank you.
Hold on, we're not done.
Thanks. I left my prop.
Thank you very much, and thanks for hanging in. I think everybody has invested themselves in making sure their needs are identified and met. Not exactly sure what the next steps are, but, and I need to, Doug, interact with you. So the areas, the confusion in my mind, and if it's confusion in my mind, that's likely to be confusion in your mind, the facilities requests, we have a process for identifying those and for identifying, prioritizing those and identifying the funding of that and all of that. We have a very similar thing in technology. We know that the technology fee produces X amount of revenue, and we have a process to allocate that, and it goes back to the campuses. So we saw some facilities requests. We knocked some technology requests off today's agenda. Just share with everybody where we go next in both of those areas, Doug.
Okay. You'll recall in our instructions that we said, of course, it's fund neutral. We said, put your requests in without thinking of, well, what source are they going to come from, where. So that's what you did. Our next step before we get these to the committee level is to basically project all of our revenue in each of the different funds, capital improvement fees being one, to see what revenue we will have, either additional, like we're anticipating additional in most of the areas given the growth this year. So we will see in those funds, well, what increase have we had? And then secondly, look at the existing pools, because we do have already very large technology refresh pots. And as you know, as you've refreshed computers cost a little less now than they did when we started, so we can buy more. So we'll do an analysis of that to see, if we need to either reallocate or if there's additional that we can apply to some of these needs. We want to obviously try and meet as many of these needs as possible within existing funds. So not everything that gets funded necessarily has to come from new funds. So We'll do that first. We'll look at what do we have existing, what do we project, and see how many of the needs, once we prioritize them and see what's at the top and so on, and then decide what we can fund from those different sources. And only when all of that is done will we then look at the prioritized list of projects and say, what can we fund with any new money we receive? But you know that particularly on the capital improvement part, we have two pots out there. We have the one that deals with renovation and remodel. As we get a little bit further along, we'll see how that money's been spent. I mean, how much of it is still available. There may be some cash where we can fund some of these projects, again, from existing or lapsed capital improvement fees. We also have, and I noticed there was also some equipment. There are the pots of capital improvement fees for equipment. And we want to relook at that to see, well, how have we been spending that? What can we accommodate within those pots and see where we are. So,
I have a quick question.
Yes, please go.
What's the communication plan for us as managers to know if our requests have been funded? Is there a plan? How does that work?
There is. I can describe it, but I'm going to ask Jamel, do you want to describe where we go from here? Okay.
So the next steps are,
Jamel.
the next steps are that the strategic request will go to one of the three strategic issues committees. So you've got the academic, student services, and administrative support committees. They have rubrics and will prioritize the requests. If you go out on the same SharePoint site where all the budget requests are, there's room and we'll actually expand it, where as we go through that process, we continually update. Thank you, Doug. We update what happens in those committees, so whether they're recommending it to move forward, if there's any notes and comments related to everything, and that will continue to be updated all the way through the final decisions, at which point we also update and say where the funding source is, the final amount, so you can always go back to the same SharePoint site to see where you're at.
So Tyrone, there's three college-wide groups that fit into one overarching college-wide group, but along the way we go back and forth to the existing committee structures. Okay, so as things evolve, we have a lot of dialogue, obviously, with the provosts after today. We have dialogue with the deans and their needs, and then everybody just walks through as we move forward. It's unlikely to be a final decision before May. I mean, we just don't know how much money there is and what's in what pools. So I guess I would say we're as smart today as we're going to be when we know how much money is, so we can put things in order. What do we think is more important? We just don't know where we're going to draw the line to say that's all the money we have. So we kind of noodle it as we go forward. That leads to two issues, though, that Tyrone, the answer is it's all open and above board. It unfolds over the next couple of months. You won't miss it, okay, if you're just part of the process. Are you okay with that? Is that a good enough answer? Okay. There are two things that need more work. One, Jesse's a good soldier. That request for the first-time full-time counselor is as cynical as I can be. That would be last on my list of priorities on its own dime. But the other side of the coin is there is an emergent process for funding colleges, and our future is tied to the performance funding part of where the state goes. They're going to fund additional growth. I don't think we're going to be in the top drawer there. There's other places across the state that are growing much faster than we are. There is a pot that they call compression. You know, the money is disequal already, so we're trying to get people to where everybody's per FTE amount is close. It's all inside baseball. It's whining for small schools is really what it is. But we're already among the best funded per FTE, so there's not going to be any money for us coming in that part The only place that makes a difference is the performance funding. We currently sit 12th out of 28 on the list, but there's an index for the whole deal, again, more than anyone wants to know, but we're only 4 points from being in the top echelon, which then shares money out of a bigger pool. Well, I don't know about you, but I'd go anywhere I could to get 4 points to get into that pool. But what we ought to do is take all of the factors as they unfold. It's still a work in progress, but we have to have a strategy to say, how are we going to get good at everyone? How are we going to raise our score in each of the, Jamel, help me out, 10 or 12 factors? Is it 9? You know, that's the game. We've got to get good at the game. I want to say to you, I think a lot of it is folly. It does not reflect public policy as well as I would like to see it reflect. It certainly doesn't reflect the demands that we're feeling to better serve our students in every case, but it's where we don't make the rules. They make the rules, and if we choose to ignore them, be careful. Be careful. We won't be the only college trying to move up the ladder. There will be 27 others trying to move up the ladder, so we've got to get that done. I don't know if we'll do that, but I need to start using that sort of as a shorthand for how we're going to compete for performance kind of funding. If I thought it would get me 4 points, I'd do it tomorrow. I'd find 50 grand for each of what we'd say 1,700 students or whatnot, so boom, we do it. Anyway, that's more than you want to know, but we've got to get that in front of us. We have to have a strategic view of how we're going to compete with the way the competition is being restructured across the state. Everybody's free to have their own opinion as to the benefits of that or the detriment of that, but that's the way it works. It's still uncertain. We're lobbying very hard to get some things in that I think are stronger for us and whatnot. Some of the other guys are lobbying hard to get things in that matter for them. So we don't know how that goes. That leads, though, to the concern that I shared early in the work today. Everybody's getting their stuff in. We've got it templated. We do it on a timely basis. We can understand each other. We're talking through. But I'm deeply concerned that we have lost the strategic view when you put it all together. Somebody tell me, if you sat in the presentations today, tell me what the 3 or 4 key strategic impact directions that we heard talked about today. I mean, I know what we're trying to do, so I can make the leap to it, but a list of positions is not strategic direction. I mean, you know, you have to ask for certain things at certain times. I get it, but I can't go to the board with a list of positions and say, here's the budget for next year. Here are the positions I want to fund for next year. I have to be able to put it in here's where we are, here's where we're going, here's where we sense weakness or need in the services that we have. Here's the things we've shared with you all the way along as to what's working and what's still a challenge for us. Here's the commitments that we're making. And here then are the fixes that we think we can put in the budget for next year to move us closer to our goals or to enhance where we are or to address new needs or to overcome some changes and shortfalls. So we have to have a very different strategic vision and pull it all together in a way that makes sense. I suspect when I get a chance to get back with the provost, they'll say we've already got that. I suspect if you don't, you will have it by the time we get back together. Okay, but that's the nature of what we have to have here. When, in fact, I made some notes. When, in fact, after all the work that Jason's doing and Jim's doing and the dean's doing, what year should I look to see certifications, more certifications than degrees? In what year would those lines cross? and how are we going to get there? That would seem to me to be a strategic discussion. Okay? Are we close? Are we on? The curves are on different levels. How are we going to get it? Sharon's doing some stuff for certifications. Jim's doing some stuff. Jason's doing some stuff. Greg, you're doing some stuff. At what point will we, Jesse, what do we have, 4,000 associate degrees a year now? Is that give or take? Patrick, 4,000? Okay. Where would we see those lines cross? Is it a year away? Is it 2 years away? Is it 22 years away? I don't know. But we ought to say our goal is to get those two aligned. If that's one of our goals. If it's not, then let's not do that. So I think we can do that. What the provosts have worked so hard on the intake process, so incredibly hard on the intake process. Here's what we need to make all of this work better. If with all the agony that people have put into reduce wait times, I think I heard that mentioned once this morning. But if that's not the priority, then say that. That's okay. Dr. Log, get comfortable. We're going to keep doing what we're doing on wait times. We got other things we want to do. I'm a little concerned that the Career Center stuff, we talked about it this meeting a year ago, and I'm not sure it's as far along as I had envisioned it might be at this juncture. So we have to get that back on. But you see the 3 or 4 or 5 strategic things that have to describe our commitment to our community, the way we as a team have to stand in front of both our colleagues, the people we supervise, and our Board of Trustees, and say to them, here indeed is how the direction and the velocity that we are capable of achieving as we go forward. Great work in the Learning Center, same thing. But if I had, I sit in the Wednesday morning meetings. If I had 118,000 visits in the Learning Center every semester, I would say, let me give you a number, 118,000. You know what that looks like? It looks like this. You know what it means like this? How many tutors? How many people do we need? It's been a 40% increase in tutoring help. It's been this, it's been this, it's been this. And there's more. But wait, there's more. There's 20 more slides. So what I want to do is take the work that's been done. People have been very, I think, enthusiastic, and they certainly have been careful and put it together. But it has to have a very different strategic and a much different impact flavor than we afforded ourselves today. And my reaction is simply, I want to get to that discussion sooner. I get it that in the end we write checks to get things done. I've raised 2 sons as well as being college president, okay, so I know what it takes to move the needle. But I think we owe it to ourselves to have a much more focused strategic decision. When we leave here, can we say, here are the 5 or 6 things that are really going to happen next year? We might have 5 or 6 others that everybody's interested in. There's no limit to the number of things we're doing, but what are the 5 or 6 things that really have to happen in the next year for us to keep moving forward, to maintain velocity, to do it? I saw Jackie's numbers today are stunning. I had no idea, and I sign those things every day. Every one of them have come across my desk. Had no idea we've moved from 3 million to, what was the number? 44 million. Good Lord. That's congratulations to all of you. Jackie just writes it down. You guys are the ones who come up with the ideas. So anyway, that's where we are. We'll continue to work through the groups. We have an enrollment plan that will, did we take that to the board last month, or have we vetted that with the board yet?
The enrollment plan, not this
year. Well, we really have to do finance. So we've got March meeting, April, May. Long and short is we know how much money to plan for tuition. We know how much money to plan for capital improvement. We know how much money to plan for the technology fee. I mean, we can start making assumptions and then just tinker it at the end. Okay, so let's get that going. Let's be a little smarter. We can come. We're 98% home on some of those. The final number will be a little different, but it shouldn't change our thinking. So, questions, comments, observations. Okay. Thank you. I've got a whole bunch of stuff, but we'll do more individually. Thank you.